everyone. So just for a start, show of hands, who's feeling a bit tired? Yeah, who's feeling really energetic?
Yeah!
Way! Who's feeling a bit tipsy? Yeah, okay. I've had half a beer, I'm a lightweight these days. I also have a laser pointer, I feel quite important. Okay, so who here considers themselves to be pretty good at social media? Okay, who considers themselves to be terrible at social media? Who's like kind of all right, feels like they could probably do with a few pointers? Cool, okay, well I really hope there's going to be something in here for everyone. There's some easy bits and some bit more kind of complex bits, so obviously any question at the end, no question is a stupid question. I'm used to giving talks like this in front of other social media marketers, so if anything really doesn't make sense, just put your hand up and interrupt. Okay. So a little bit about me. I'm Alice, I have pink hair. I used to be social media director at an agency called Jellyfish, and then at the start of the year, I quit my job to go freelance. I've worked in social media since 2009, which was around the time when you just kind of gave social media to the most junior person in the office because they understood it, and then it kind of stuck, and it turned into my career. So I've worked with a lot of businesses, B2C, B2B, across lots of different sectors. I live in Brighton, well, Hove actually. And I, as well as working in social media, I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, YA novels, running, yoga, dinosaurs, coffee, and gin. And my caveat is I'm rubbish at making slides look nice. My housemate and very good friend is in the audience. She's a designer. In advance, I'm very sorry if this offends you. This is my business partner, Sophie. I just put a slide in because very exciting. About 6 weeks ago, I went into business with Sophie, and the Joyful Web, which was just me, is now a business that both of us are running, and it's very early days, quite overwhelming and stressful at times, but also super, super exciting. So this is my first official presentation as a business owner. So I've been working in social media since 2009, and as I said, across a range of sectors and industries. And what I have found is actually, even though those industries are very, very different, the businesses are very different, the way they operate social media is very different, people do tend to make the same mistakes. So what I've tried to do in this presentation is just come up with the most common things that I seem to find myself saying in social media audits and training over and over again. And hopefully you can take this away, and if you are working with clients, it can work as like a checklist that you can offer to them to say, well, you know, have you checked that this, and this is implemented? So the first one, starting with the obvious, is using the same profile picture everywhere. You would not believe how many businesses have different variations of their logo, even different pictures across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And that really doesn't make it easy for your customers to spot you. If they're trying to mention you or tag you in something, and you don't have that instantly recognizable profile picture, then they might opt out of tagging you or messaging you because they don't know it's you, and that's going to impact your engagement. So really simple step to start, making sure that your profile picture is consistent across all channels. And for businesses, I would normally advise that this is your logo because it helps with kind of informing people about your brand identity. So the next one is get the same username on all of your channels. So your unique username is what people use to @mention you on Twitter, Instagram, and now Facebook. Having the same name is especially important for Twitter to Instagram because so many people cross-post automatically between the two channels. So here I mentioned Bert's Home Store in an Instagram post, and it auto-posted to Twitter, and because they had the same @name, they were then also tagged on Twitter. But obviously, if that had been a different username, then that engagement wouldn't have shown up. Facebook works in a different way, so it's not as essential that you've got the same @name, but it's advised, it's sensible because it makes you easier to find. The next bit is know how to sell yourself in 150 characters or fewer. So my kind of template for your social media bio is know who you are, what you offer, what makes you different, and get some keywords and brand hashtags in there because they will help you be discovered. And then if you get it in less than 150 characters, that's what works for Instagram. Twitter is 160, and I think Facebook is 255 for their short description. So if you can nail it in 150, you can just use the same one across all of your channels. So the fourth point is check your links. Again, this might sound like a really, really obvious one. I've got Ted Baker here, just because they were the first business that popped into my head that I thought would probably get it right. No idea why. But they've got links in their footer to all of their social channels, and then the links in their social channels all point back to their site. That might seem super obvious, but you would be really surprised at the number of businesses that haven't even checked this. The next bit is open graph tags, which are now even more important now that Facebook doesn't let you edit link previews, which gets this emoji because I feel that's the second most irritating thing that Facebook have ever done. The first being massively suppressing organic reach so that everyone has to spend lots of money. So essentially, if you don't have open graph tags put on your site, when you share links from your site, they look like this one instead of like this one, which is with your optimized title, description, and then your picture, which just looks a lot better, entices people to click, takes up more space in the feed. And then on a similar vein, Twitter cards. So if you don't have Twitter cards implemented on your site, if someone shares a link to your site to Twitter, it just looks like this. So there's no media there, it doesn't really stand out in the feed, doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's not very eye-catching. Whereas if you have Twitter cards implemented on your site, again, similar to the Facebook link previews, when someone posts a link to your site to Twitter, it will pull in all of this data as well. Not only does that work for articles like this, which is a summary card, but you also get player cards for audio and video, which allows that to play in the feed. And then you also get app cards, which have all of that kind of rich media to drive installs. And then the third point is rich pins. Now, this is super, super important for retailers, because what rich pins do is they display not only a nice picture of your product, but they have the price, the product title, and then they have a little sold by here so that it tells people that actually this item is available to buy. People don't really use Pinterest like a social network. They use it like a catalog. So they are browsing with more intent to buy than any other social network. So rich pins are really, really important. And then the next one is social sharing buttons. So if you are publishing content on your site, in order to get it in front of more people, you want people to be able to share it. People are really lazy. You have to make it really easy for them if you want them to share your content. They want to do it in the moment when they've just read the article. So it's good to have buttons like these ones, which kind of travel down as they scroll so they can then decide to share it at any point in the article. On Twitter, you can actually set it to pre-populate with the article headline, a link, and then an at mention. So when people are posting it, not only are they posting the title, which really kind of grabs people in, they're also posting the link and a link to your Twitter profile as well. You can't set that for Facebook, but if you've got all your open graph tags implemented, then when someone shares a link, it will look like this. And then finally, penultimate, hashtag all the things. Don't hashtag all the things. Unless you're on Instagram, where you can actually safely and quite comfortably use up to 30. Not only are hashtags recommended for Instagram, if you have quite a small following, so lower than a few thousand followers, they're actually essential for discoverability to get your content seen, but make sure that they're relevant, and I'll say a little bit more on that at the end. Twitter's guidelines actually say only use 1 or 2 hashtags as best practice. And on Facebook, studies have shown they actually harm engagement. So if you're putting hashtags in your Facebook posts, people are actually less likely to engage with them. And then Pinterest have recently kind of re-implemented hashtags after saying they weren't going to use them. And the only guidance they give is be relevant and don't keyword stuff, which I'm sure we've all heard before in the context of SEO. And then my final point kind of generically is image sizes. So make sure that they're high enough quality when you post images. You don't want them to be pixelated, and I see that a lot. there is a huge amount of guidance online. If you just Google optimum image sizes for social media, there's a brilliant guide on buffer that is constantly updated. And use square or portrait images because then they're optimized for mobile viewing. Apart from Twitter, which for some unknown reason still crops images landscape in its mobile app. So they get that emoji as well, same as Facebook. And then I just wanted to end with a few tips for each individual channel. So Facebook. I don't see a lot of businesses utilizing page tabs particularly well. So you can actually use those to point towards your other social media channels and also to point people towards things like newsletter sign-ups. So if you're using MailChimp, you can put a MailChimp tab in. Really limit text on images. If you're posting images with loads of text on Facebook, not only does it not allow you to promote them if your images are more than 20% filled with text, but it also suppresses them within the algorithm as well. Don't post text-only updates either that don't have any images or links or videos. They get absolutely no reach. And also allocate some budget to ads. So if your business is really serious about using Facebook, I tend to advise clients to think of it as like a subscription service. So you do have to pay a small amount to be in the space, even if you've only got 40 or 50 pounds a month to just put behind particularly important posts. It's really wise to allocate that budget as part of your marketing strategy. And shares are so essential for getting reach on Facebook. So make sure that the content you're putting out there is in some way useful, emotive, or funny. If people don't have a reason to share it, then they're not going to share it. They're not going to do your marketing for you. And video is where it's at. If you're confident enough to go live for your business, even better. The algorithm will love you. And then Twitter. Use lists to spy on, engage with people really easily. So you can create private lists for competitors, for customers, for influencers, and then you can filter the people that you're following in a really easy way to prioritize who you're engaging with. Twitter only works when you're really setting time aside to engage in conversation, and lists are a really, really good way of segmenting those people. If you want to retweet someone from your account, don't just hit the retweet button. All that does is benefit them. If you want to gain visibility for your own account, when you retweet, type a comment. Then you get visibility for your account as well, even if it's just, this is a really great article, mention them, thanks for sharing. And I say this again and again and again to clients, don't start your tweets with an @mention if you want it to gain visibility. If you start your tweets with an @mention, the only people that will see it in the feed are people who are following both accounts. So put a dot in front or put a word in front if you want more people to see it. And then Twitter now has 280 characters. I don't really know how to feel about this. So yay, I don't really know what to do with them. I've mostly been filling them up with dinosaur emojis. If you haven't got the latest iOS update, it's a treat. And then Instagram tips. So for some reason on Instagram, and this is against every other channel, photos still seem to get more engagement than video. Learn to use stories is massively important. A lot of people I speak to, a lot of clients find stories really scary and really intimidating, but they are growing and growing in popularity. I'm seeing that for my personal accounts and for my clients. And this sort of format of transient disappearing content is becoming more and more popular in these social media spaces that are really highly saturated. And again, hashtags are essential, but vary them a lot and keep them relevant. Otherwise, you risk getting shadow banned, which in the Instagram community is like, oh, all of these influencers that rely on Instagram for their income freaked out when the shadow ban came in. But what it basically means is if Instagram decides through its algorithm that you're spamming, it puts a ban on your posts for about 48 hours. So if it's essential to your business, do not keyword stuff and be irrelevant. Really take the time to research your hashtags and make sure that you're varying them up. Even if you're just varying the order, but kind of using the same ones. And then finally, Pinterest tips. As I mentioned earlier, Pinterest isn't actually a social network. So it doesn't need as much kind of daily engagement and cultivation as the others. Essentially, if you're a retailer, you just want to make sure that your products are on there so that they can be repinned and discovered with all of the right keywords. Keywords in descriptions is so important because people browse Pinterest with search intent, and if your pins do not contain the keywords that people are looking for, they won't be found. And use portrait images only. The longer, the better. So make sure that those are there for products instead of the kind of small landscape images, because they really don't take up any space and don't get as much reach. And please, this final point, make sure your pins link somewhere. So the amount of times I see businesses uploading these beautiful images of their products, you click on them and it just opens in a media window because they haven't put a link behind the pin. You're missing a sale. If someone clicks on your pin, they probably are thinking about buying it. So big tip for Pinterest is to go through and make sure that all of your pins link somewhere. So in summary, I didn't have this summary slide earlier, and then my friend told me I had to have a summary slide. So I did as I was told. So in summary, create great content people love. Everyone knows that in the marketing space. It's been said for years. And I hope that these tips that I've given you tonight are going to make sure that the content you're creating and putting out on social actually gets the reach that it deserves. Thank you.